Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's our midweek edition of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. For the next hour, we have all the latest news, notes, information surrounding sports wagering, and some news on media as well. Our buddy Simon Applebaum will be in the house. We'll go over the very latest with this Diamond Sports Group. Looks like some updates on that as well. In addition, we're going to break down the latest in the NFL, some college football, some college basketball, but we begin with the college football playoff system, which is brand new, and there are 12 teams, and we still don't know who's in there, but we're getting closer and closer to figuring it out. Committee's top 25 released. We've got even a bracket to show you here. It would appear that some of the same things that we discussed yesterday with Bill Bender are in play. SMU is one of the teams that we're going to talk about here. For the most part, there's still a lot to resolve. The hot team right now, of course, is Alabama. We'll get some stuff figured out this week between Georgia and Tennessee, but thought we would at least open up the show with this because naturally this is brand new for all of us, sort of learning who is going to be in and who is going to be out. University of Miami Hurricanes, by the way, by getting a conference championship, maybe on the back end of the top 12, but potentially getting a bye as well. So a lot to unpack. We'll do it more with Bill Bender when he comes on the show tomorrow. All right, now as far as the NBA is concerned, let's get to the Golden State Warriors and the reunion that we saw last night. Klay Thompson returns to a standing ovation, minutes and minutes long. I mean, he was great with Golden State, but he's now with Dallas, and the Mavericks were like, we're not having that. 120-117, the final. Huge game for Steph Curry, vintage game, as they would naturally say. But in the end, it was really nice to see the crowd do the right thing for one of their best all-time players. Curry was just too much in this game. He and Draymond Green, of course, were with his, Klay Thompson in the past, and they talked about the reunion last night.
Sure. I mean, it's my guy. It's my friend. Road dog for 13 years, so there's a lot of history. You're going to have a lot of back and forth. Some of it was competitive, some of it was fun. And thankfully, we were all able to focus on the game and just hoop and compete. It was an unreal night for sure, all the way around. From the emotions at the pregame of him, being acknowledged, and the crowd during two-line layups going crazy for him. The video tribute, and I'm so surprised they ran a post up for him on the first play. I blacked out on that one. I wasn't gonna let him score, and I fouled him. But it was a pretty special night all the way around. Obviously, we won. It was a great finish, but well done all the way around.
I've seen them battle a lot in practice, so it wasn't that odd. Once you get in the game, it's just about the game. We weren't out there like, oh man, Klay's in a different jersey. It is what it is. We had great years here. He's over there trying to do something special. We're here trying to do something special. So once you get it between those lines, all that extra stuff go out the window.
It certainly felt that way last night. Really competitive game, by the way, from both of those teams. But, of course, we also hear from Klay Thompson, who returned back yesterday to the Bay Area, said it was a really emotional night for him.
I actually didn't really think much of it because I wanted to go in here with an open mind, and it was a really cool experience. I appreciate the fans very much. The captain's hat ended up being a great touch. So I'm such a passionate boater, and saw a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. That was a warm-hearted feeling. So it was really cool to see the fans, their gratitude towards myself, and something I will never take for granted. So it was very, very awesome.
The last couple games have been, some tough clutch losses. Just what are some themes that you've, seen in those situations that maybe could be cleaned up going forward?
I know we've had like 4 games this year where it could have gone either way. Tonight, this one really stung, being up 7, under 4 minutes left. We'll watch the film and get better. But I am really proud of how this team keeps fighting. We're still getting to know each other, and I keep telling the guys it's better to go through this stuff early in the season versus game 60. So I know we have a chance to be great, and we just got to stay the course.
Fun game for the Warriors, not so much for the woeful Philadelphia 76ers. Yikes, they lost again yesterday at home to the New York Knicks. They end up taking it pretty easily, 111-99 in the return of Joel Embiid, who, by the way, is not expected to play tonight. They play back-to-back games. The 76ers just keep on losing. And there's really no end in sight at this point. We'll have to see. Again, part of this was the midseason NBA tournament. That's why you see the blue court there. Not a happy night for Joel Embiid screaming at you on television right there. Not a good night there. Hey, by the way, not a good night last night for the Miami Heat. And what is probably one of the bigger stories of the NBA season, a complete blunder by their head coach, their great head coach, Erik Spoelstra. The Heat loses 123 to 121 to the Pistons. Erik Spoelstra, the head coach of the Heat, calls a timeout with the game tied and didn't have a timeout with 1.1 seconds left in overtime. So that gave the Pistons a technical foul shot, which they made, and even on the ensuing play, Spoelstra didn't realize that his team didn't have the ball. Really bizarre sequence of events. Spoelstra, who's been a phenomenal coach for a long time in the NBA, basically said it was all on him last night.
And then I just made a serious mental error, there at the end. That's on my, that's on me. I feel horrible about it. There's really no excuse for that. I'm 17 years in. We had talked about it in the huddle. I knew that we didn't have anything. I just got emotional and reactive on that, and I just made a horrendous mistake there at the end. It's a shame, because we really fought back. We had some great defensive possessions, hustle possessions, those 50-50 balls, and then Tyler was just sensational. You don't want it to come down to a mental error like that. Yeah, you just would have liked to seen this go double overtime. That's the kind of game it felt like. It deserved to go double OT and not have somebody get in the way of that. And unfortunately, even as a veteran coach, I got in the way of that.
Right now, the Heat is on a road trip that has not gone particularly well. They did get a win over the weekend, but it hasn't looked good for them thus far. It is good for Anthony Davis and the Lakers. He is going to return against the Memphis Grizzlies in their next matchup. Also, a tough start for Emmanuel Quickley, who's going to be out a week with a partial UCL tear. And the Raptors are 2-9. Hasn't been a good start for them. Pelicans lost Jose Alvarado with a hamstring for 6 weeks. All right, in college basketball last night, the marquee matchup, Kentucky-Duke. Duke ranked 6th, Kentucky 19. Duke a favorite, Kentucky wins. Final score 77-72. They cover the 6-point spread and win outright. Kansas wins and covers against Michigan State 77-69. But how about this one? Oregon beat Portland. That's right, the University of Portland in overtime. The Ducks were 26.5-point favorites in this one. Crazy. Dan Hurley and number 3 UConn, 37.5-point favorites tonight against Lemoyne. And also in the NFL this week, Trevor Lawrence is going to miss his second straight game. Mac Jones will start against Detroit. And I still don't have a quarterback in fantasy football. Not going well. All right, in the San Francisco 49ers world, DeMario Lenore gets a 5-year, $92 million contract extension. Preston Smith and Nick Herbig they're going to play quite a role this week as Alex Highsmith for the Steelers is going to miss the game against the Ravens. That's a big one. Also, Isaiah Pacheco scheduled to return to practice. It's possible we could see him over the next couple of weeks. Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback of the Tennessee Volunteers, suffered a concussion in their game last week. It was just reported yesterday. There is a chance he will miss this upcoming game against the University of Georgia. USC's football program has been fined $50,000 and put on probation for past violations. In college football action last night, Buffalo beat Ball State 51-48. I believe that went over the total. And Toledo goes to 7-3. They beat Central Michigan 37-10. We'll take a quick time out here on the show. When we come back next, it's time to dive into some college basketball with Michael DeCourcy. Don't go away.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What
in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the that's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Hinted your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got Mike DeCourcy from Sporting News in the house. He and I have been chopping it up on a lot of pro football over the last few weeks. But, hey, we got some really big college basketball games going on early on in the season. We thought he would get his input on some of those. Mike, thanks for coming back here on NewsWire. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. After a huge hoop night, it's great to talk about the sport.
Yeah, and by the way, it was. I mean, Tuesday night featuring basically a lot of those teams in the top 10 last night, including a great matchup with Duke and Kentucky. But let's dive in first, Mike, on the AP Top 25 and take a look at what the early polls show here. Naturally, it's a lot of those same cast of characters that we see here at the top. But again, we're only a week into this thing. What do you make of the poll?
Yeah, I'm not sure about what it is that's led the voters to select Kansas as preseason number one. For me, if you're projecting a preseason number one, what are you trying to do? Say who's going to win the most games or who's going to be national champion in the end? That's what I'm searching to do. And I don't see a national champion when I look at Kansas. I don't think that they have the level of talent. They've got some excellent college players. Hunter Dickinson, fifth year as a college center, is a tremendous college basketball player. But when we get to March, and specifically when we get to April, the biggest games, the ones that are played this year in San Antonio, you just have to have those NBA guys. So we go back all the way to 1987, the last time somebody won a national championship without first-round NBA picks on their team. And although I think Flory Badunga is going to be one eventually, I'm not sure how influential he will be on this Kansas team. I don't think they shoot the basketball quite well enough to win it all, but they're going to win a ton of games as long as they stay healthy.
Yeah, I would agree. Last night, I would say we got our first big upset of the season as Duke looked like they were in control early on in this one, and then they were not. And then Kentucky comes back to win this one. Pretty big surprise. Did you watch the game closely, Mike? What did you make of Kentucky? I think we kind of know who Duke is, but that was a big surprise because the Wildcats this season, I don't know if they're expected to take a huge step back, but they're certainly not one of the favorites to win.
Right. They played with a lot of – one of the things that when Mark Pope went into Kentucky, and they had basically an entirely empty roster when he walked in the door last April, he specified that he wanted his perimeter players to be able to shoot the basketball really well. So if you look at the transfers they brought in on the perimeter, 7 if you count their stretch 4, they every one of them shot at least 35% last year. And then when he went for big guys, he went for one thing first, and that was the ability to defend the rim. And he got two of those guys. And so they have a roster that is built well under the circumstances. I wasn't surprised that they were competitive with Duke last night. I thought the 6.5, 5.5, wherever you happen to see the number, I thought that was too high. And I said that right before tip-off when someone asked me on Twitter. I thought that Kentucky would cover that number. Now, I thought Duke would be able to finish the game better than they did. You saw Cooper Flagg, who's a tremendous talent and really had a great game until the final 2 minutes. You saw him make a couple of huge mistakes, but that's where Duke is deficient. They don't have a ball-handling guard, a point guard that you can say, okay, go get us the best possible look, probably from Cooper. They have to say to Cooper, go get your best look yourself.
So right now, Kentucky has moved up to 13-1 to win the SEC after the win yesterday, because again, there's always going to be a little overreaction when you win games like that. But we know how good Alabama is. I guess I did not realize how good Auburn is, Mike, going into the season. You know, when I'm locked into baseball and football, it's really hard to be locked into everything. But I guess seeing these odds tell me that Auburn's got a pretty good shot to win the conference this season. I didn't know that they were so good going in.
Yeah, I knew they were going to be a terrific team. I don't know whether or not they deserve equivalent odds to Alabama. I think that I would have to dive into the schedules to see if maybe there's an advantage to Auburn there. If there's not, then I would make Alabama a clear favorite to win the league. They have the best roster in college basketball and a terrific coach in Nate Oates. So I think if they have a schedule that is reasonable, and again, I haven't looked into that. If their league schedule is reasonable, they should win the SEC. But they'll have some terrific battles with Auburn because Auburn is big. Janai Broome, the transfer who came in a couple of years ago from Morehead State, it continues to get better and better. And they were really smart down the stretch against Houston in their big victory, the one that's really got people excited about the Tigers. They made sure that he got the basketball on every occasion.
Kansas comes through last night against Michigan State. Hunter Dickinson, 28 points, 12 rebounds. Really nice game for them. But you basically feel the same as you said earlier, Mike, that Kansas, really good team, but shouldn't be the number one team in the country.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a great year and probably win a terrific Big 12 and it could even make the Final Four. But those last two games are such a hurdle. And we see the same type of teams in just about every year, the ones that have those guys. And it's not necessarily the ones that have the best NBA prospects, but you have to have them. And the reason is simple. Guys like Bill Self are tremendous coaches, and they basically shut out the world and break down every single set you run and every single inbounds play and all the rest of it. And eventually it's going to come down to a pro making a play that can't be taken away. And last night, I mean, would have been an example of that. If Cooper Flagg could have made a couple of plays, that would have shown you the kind of play I'm talking about. He unfortunately failed. Unfortunately, from Duke's perspective, failed in that circumstance. But usually, someone like that is going to come through on that stage, and I don't know that Kansas has that player.
Let's take a look at the Wooden Award odds. And Mike, I guess we'll end with this: can a player on Creighton be declared the best player in the country at the end of the season? He may very well be, but competing against North Carolina and Kansas and schools like that, you don't normally get this kind of cred.
You don't, but they play in one of the best leagues in the country. It's produced multiple national champions in the last decade. And we saw in 2020, the majority of selectors picked a Dayton player. So it certainly can happen at Creighton if it can happen at Dayton. And who knew that I would rhyme this morning with you, Chris? Yeah. Craig, excuse me.
All right. Well, at least you got the rhyme right. All right, Mike, thanks again for coming on NewsWire. I really appreciate it. Preview Georgia, Tennessee next.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the moment. That's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Fortunately, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Biggest game in college football this week is between Georgia and Tennessee. Still questions surrounding the Volunteers quarterback, though, which may make a lot of this conversation irrelevant if he doesn't play this week. But it's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Each and every Saturday morning, Joe Lisi's waking up early, making his picks for college football and bringing them to you here on SportsGrid. So we thought we would bring Joe back in and break down this big game between these two teams. The Georgia Bulldogs, of course, have been up against it, not getting good quarterback play, and now could potentially be on the outside looking in the college football playoff. Now, in Tennessee's case, a win for them pretty much stamps their ticket to the college football playoff. Let's get a preview of the game with Joe.
Huge top 25 battle taking place this coming weekend in Athens. The Georgia Bulldogs take on the top-ranked Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee opens as a 9.5-point underdog. They did pick up the 33-14 win over Mississippi State. They get the win, but no cover, laying 27 points in terms of that matchup. Dylan Sampson had a fantastic night, rushed for 30 carries, 146 yards, and a touchdown. They're going to need that type of effort going up against the Georgia Bulldogs, who could be angry coming off a road loss last weekend in Oxford to Jackson Dart and the Ole Miss Rebels. They got dominated on both sides of the ball. From the series perspective, Georgia has won 7 straight, the last 4 by an average margin of victory of 22.4 points per game. Picked up this victory last year in Knoxville, 38-10. Carson Beck, their quarterback, playing very inconsistent, didn't step up yet again. A critical interception that led to points for Ole Miss. Early on, I like Georgia. Now, Craig, back to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Joe. We'll get a further preview on this on Saturday. Now, meanwhile, Kirby Smart, head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, has been fantastic for Georgia. He's got some big wins, of course, under his belt. But none would be bigger than this week's game against Tennessee. Each and every game, by the way, in the SEC, of course, is a big game. But Smart knows they have a huge challenge ahead of them.
I always say you can tell the character of a team and how good a team is, how hard they play by their special teams. And they play really hard. Defense, offense. I think they're top in the conference, maybe top 3, top 2 in almost every category on offense and defense. which, as you know, that was what we faced last week. They were pretty high in both. But this team is playing defense at an extremely high level, and they have an extremely explosive offense and extremely physical offense. So it's a great test. Nico's playing really well in terms of athleticism, and he's got a great arm talent. As you sit down and watch games, you start to realize how good this team is and how well they've played. So they've got a tremendous football team, and we've got a tremendous football team. And it's going to be a great opportunity for these two to go play and square off in what's a pivotal matchup. I mean, it's going to be a great matchup at night at our place and on a national stage. So it's what you come to Georgia to play in, and it seems like we have been in a bunch of these type games, especially this year. So we've got to get our team prepared as coaches to play their best game, and they got a great team.
Let's flip over now to Josh Heupel, head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. He talked about this showdown, of course, with Georgia.
Yeah, more prepared. We've been in all of our systems longer. This football game is different than the last one. Still facing a great opponent, and you got to handle everything that comes with being in a game like this, and you earn the right to play in big football games. By what you do during the course of the season, and some of the things that didn't go well last time were a direct reflection of who we were playing, and some of it was some things that we can control too. And in these games, you got to do ordinary things at a really high level consistently. And for us, that means you got to prepare at an elite level. You got to practice really well and put yourself in a position to go play good football. Every week, you have the opportunity to play the biggest game of the season. It's the only one that's on your schedule. We're in the arena, coaches, players, and you better be in the present. So that's what we focus on, no matter who the opponent is. We understand the quality of the opponent that we're playing this week.
I think that the game will be the best one of the week if Tennessee's quarterback suits up. Coming up next, sports betting potentially coming to some new states. There are not a lot left that don't have legalized sports betting. Is Texas one of those next? Pat Evans joins us from Legal Sports Report after the break.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all week long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the that's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Now, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Wow, it is great to have Pat Evans back in the house from Legal Sports Report. It's been a couple of weeks. Pat's been extremely busy, a lot going on over there at LSR, but certainly happy to have Pat back and his insights. And we haven't had a chance to talk since the big election date, which a lot happened, of course, in the presidency, but even more happened in terms of sports betting. So we'll get to that as well. Pat, great to have you back here on NewsWire. How are you?
Oh, Craig, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back. I am doing well because Michigan State football, while they're not having the best season ever, they're certainly, on the up, and they'll be okay, I think, in the long run. And Michigan State basketball last night gave Kentucky a run for their money. We're a young team. They shot terribly, but they still gave the number one team in the country a lot of fits. So I'm okay when it comes right down to it.
All right, really good. So let's get started here. We anticipated this all year. And here we were on November's election day, and sports betting did pass in the state of Missouri. So it's the first new state, I believe, this year to go online, which is super cool. The other part of this is that I haven't followed up on this, so I'm glad you're on. I saw that there was a strong possibility that the companies go online in December. So that's really quick. Is that accurate? Are we going to see sports betting live in Missouri next month?
I don't believe it'll be that quick. The Missouri Gaming Commission does say they're going to work on this as fast as possible, so I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe they could pull it off. I don't know. We'll see. Early next year, maybe quarter one, quarter two, certainly a better possibility. This is the end of a saga that we've been talking about, Craig, for how long? Since I've been coming on here for nearly 2 years or so. I mean, I remember when I first started coming on here and we were talking about the race that Kansas and Missouri were having to launch, and Missouri seemed like they were also going to get it done in 2022, and then they didn't. And then they didn't again in 2023, and then they didn't again this year legislatively because of a big major legislative block. And so then this huge campaign started up to get it on the ballot, and we saw a huge fight for it and against it. The pro sports teams and FanDuel and DraftKings poured a lot of money into it. Caesars eventually poured a lot of money against it, actually the most ever for a ballot initiative in Missouri. It was over $14 million. It was over $40 million for it from DraftKings, the teams, and FanDuel. And I tell you what, we were watching the polls coming through all year. It was always about 52% for, 48%, well, not 48% against, but, a lot of undecideds. And it passed by the skin of its teeth. It needed 50.01% to pass. It got 50.07% of votes, just a couple thousand more than voted against it. So, I mean, this was a very close race. We knew it would be. And here we are. We're going to see Missouri sports betting go live sometime in the next year, by next November. Of note, I think really interesting is, as I just mentioned, Caesars mounted a giant opposition campaign. But all of a sudden, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the election, they pulled their ads. The opposition campaign pulled the ads. Well, it turns out that the Missouri Gaming Commission is kind of taking an interesting read of the ballot question, which most people had said would be one online sports betting operator per casino, which is why Caesars likely didn't like that, because they'd want, they have 3 casinos and they want more operators for themselves. And it seems like they're going to get one sports book per casino. So it seems like Caesars might have changed their tune a little bit. But again, very close election. So the opposition campaign, probably worked a little bit and in the end against them.
Yeah. And I think that right now that's a state to watch when it goes live. The other states to watch are Louisiana and Colorado for different reasons. Taxes. That's another big topic, I think, coming next year. I mean, we spend, Pat, so much time talking about which state could go live. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? We should probably be just spending time in 2025 on this state decided to go from 20% to 50. This state decided to go from 10 to 40. I mean, to me, that will be the story you'll be writing on next year, because if I'm going to project correctly, it's going to be every single state saying, look at New York, give me that tax rate, or we're going to hike the odds or something like that. So Colorado
It's funny.
is the first one.
Well, it's funnier to say that. I'm watching just before I came on here, I was watching a Louisiana hearing that was to, the bill to hike it from 15 to 51% to equal New York. So right there, you're right. But yeah, Colorado, they also passed a bill this election season. Well, not a bill. The Colorado voters passed an amendment to kind of uncap how much the state can bring in from sports betting tax revenue. Colorado is a really unique state in that 1992 constitutional amendment requires the state to cap the amount of money they can bring in from whatever the bill says based on the legislative estimates. So once Colorado sports betting bill passed back in 2021 or 2020, I forget which year it was, the estimates, because of promo deductions and whatever have you, capped it at $29 million. They said this is how much we can make from sports betting taxes. Well, in 2022, they they eliminated the deductions, and this last fiscal year, the state, brought in $29,900,000. Well, because of that old rule, they had to give back, or would have to give back, $900,000 to the sports books or casinos. Well, the legislator was like, wait, we want to keep that money. So they put this on the ballot. Voters said, yeah, because sports betting taxes largely go to fund water, restoration projects and the like. And we know Colorado loves nature. And so that overwhelmingly passed. And so now you'll see Colorado get to keep plenty more money from sports betting taxes as we go on.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, by the way, smart by these states to try and get this done now, because, again, eventually we are going to get the bigger states that are left to go legal. And, Pat, we're going to get into Texas here. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that Texas and California and some of this Minnesota, some of the states are left, they're not going to come close to 10, 20%. They're all going to be pushing for 50%. So let's get now to Texas as we end here. Is there a chance for 2025 for them? What's the latest update?
It does not look great in Texas for 2025. I think we're still looking at probably 2027, and that is, of course, because they meet every other year. The Senate picked up another Republican seat, and Republicans in Texas are really not for sports betting. So it's a really tough place to get it over the goal line, because Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, is staunchly against sports betting and gambling. And that kind of filters down, because he is the president of the Senate, to the rest of the senators. And, it doesn't seem like it's going to change. Now, with the presidential election going towards Donald Trump, there could be a possibility that Dan Patrick moves on to an administrative role in his administration. But any potential successors are also likely anti-sports betting. So there you go. There's not going to be too much of a shift next year. 2027, there could be a new regime change and everything in Texas. So that could be more of a bright spot. You've got lots of money coming in from the likes of Jerry Jones and the Adelsons and the Mark Cuban, all for sports betting, more so necessarily probably gambling and the resort tourism potential that's there. But sports betting would be, ancillary to that. So there's lots of proponents there as well that could help get it over the edge. If it doesn't fail, we're seeing some tribal suggestions of maybe they'll go by way of like your state of Florida and launch something. So Texas is something to watch for sure. It could be a significant, it will be a significant state whenever it decides to legalize it.
Yep, agreed. All right, Pat, great stuff as always. Will I see you later this week, or this is your?
You'll have Sam this week, and I'll be back on Monday.
Awesome, man. I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig.
All right. Great to have our friends at LSR back here on NewsWire. All right, coming up next, can I interest you in watching your favorite sports team for $7 per game? Not every game of the season, just $7 for individual games. We'll tell you about that possibility. Also, the Indianapolis Colts have made a quarterback change. They're going back to Anthony Richardson. Joe Flacco goes back to the bench. And we'll be right back.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all week long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the that's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We've got Simon Applebaum in the house. Go over the latest media. We'll talk some college football, some women's sports, potential new network coming. Simon is with us, of course. And Simon, great to have you back here on NewsWire. And lots of news and notes to get to here on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be back, and I'll tell you, a lot of things happening. Last day and a half, we've had two of the major sports commissioners here in New York for the Paley International Council Summit. Don Garber, the commissioner of Major League Soccer yesterday, and Adam Silver from the NBA today. By the way, Adam Silver is now 10 years into his tenure as commissioner, and both of them had really great takeaways, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
All right, so let's start off with a very unique concept that Diamond Sports is giving some of their viewers. We know that they have been in bankruptcy and they're still battling, going back and forth with Major League Baseball and some of the agreements that they have. And they do have several teams in the NBA and the NHL that they have retained. Simon, as you know, they used to have almost all of them. They decided to just do away with some of them just because they can't afford to pay the rights fees. This new concept that they have allows fans that have these sports networks available to them who don't have them, $6.99 per game. So essentially, if you don't want to purchase, you download the app, purchase a season package, you can buy games for $7. Now, this is not, Simon, economical, of course. If you do this over the course of the whole season, 82, 81 basketball games at $7 is going to be way more than you're going to pay if you don't pay for the season. Why would the subscriber, the user, the streamer, why would somebody do this for just one game?
I think, Craig, this is an effort by Diamond to sort of hedge their bets. They realize they're up against the wall. They're coming out of bankruptcy. They now have their networks labeled as FanDuel. They know that they have less and less cable and satellite subscribers who are pulling the umbilical cord from their subscriptions. They're going to smart TV sets, smart devices. They realize also that Major League teams are now looking at putting more of their regular season games on local stations or doing their own smart TV sets, smart device services. So they figure, okay, if subscribers don't want to take our full range of regional programming for a month or months at a time, let's give them a game-by-game kind of thing. So I think this is a way that they're trying to build a new revenue stream and at the same time try to appeal to the customers, some of whom they may have lost because of the fact that they pulled the umbilical cord from their cable or satellite subscription. The question for Diamond is, can they do the marketing and promotion to make this appealing to subs? And that's the big question I think that the customers are going to answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer either, but at least they're trying something different. All right, does Big Noon need to try something different on Fox? Ohio State is going to end the regular season with 6 straight noon games. They're one of the biggest draws, of course, for the network. And they got that big home game against Indiana, which could determine Indiana's fate in terms of college football. But what do you make of this, Simon? I mean, are they doing the right thing putting them on at this time? The SEC, of course, prefers the evening, and they have done very well in their ratings part.
That's the big question. The issue is not as much with Fox viewers. It is with the Ohio State and now the Indiana faithful. Ohio State is number 2 in the country. So Fox, for the last 4 weeks, has run in the 12 noon time period, where they're up against ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, etc. That's the first college football window on Saturdays. They're running Ohio State games, whether they are close games or blowouts. The problem is most of those games are at Ohio Stadium. So a game that runs on Fox at noon, even though they may get 7, 8, 9 million viewers, they did with the 9.4 they did with the Ohio State-Penn State game 2 weeks ago, it means that's a game less that they play at night at Ohio Stadium. This Ohio State-Indiana game, which obviously is going to be one of the big games of this weekend because of Indiana now in the top 10 for the first time in decades. And this is their big game at 10-0 to maybe make a statement to the entire college football world. We deserve to be in a bowl game no matter what. That it's going to be on Fox. This comes after Ohio State-Purdue blowout, where Gus Johnson, if you saw the clips on YouTube or on Awful Announcing, he seemed to be monotonic. Every time Ohio State got a touchdown, it was like, touchdown, Ohio State. Monotonic. No enthusiasm whatsoever. There are a lot of people who think that Johnson who is known as one of the most ebullient sportscasters around, may have been trying to make a little dig at Fox saying, hey, folks, give me better games to do. I don't want Ohio State week after week after week. The problem, by the way, is with Ohio State, Indiana being a noon game, it means that NBC is a loser with Big Ten Saturday night because that could have been their game at 7:30 Eastern time on Saturday night. And so we have that game. We then have Ohio State, Michigan. It looks like, with Michigan being out of the top 25 for the first time in ages, nowhere to go. That could be a blowout or could be a really bad scoring game for Michigan. So you have these 6 games, and Fox is going to have to say something. And for the Ohio State fans, they're going, hey, why can't you run Indiana games? Why can't you run Wisconsin games? Why can't you run Oregon games? The Oregon-Ohio State game, by the way, was the biggest Big Ten Saturday night game ever, 10.4 viewers. The problem is twofold. One, Indiana, according to insiders, is considered no draw, even with them being one of the biggest stories in college football this year, for the first time in a great long while. The second thing is because you have Pac-12 teams, former Pac-12 teams like Oregon, who have to play some of their games at night, as opposed to going across country to play Big Ten teams, it means for Fox, hey, we can't run those games because of the logistics. So Fox is in sort of a great place with the viewers, bad place with the college football fraternity, especially with Ohio State and Indiana. But we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see how Gus Johnson and by the way, Joel Klatt, who is Gus Johnson's partner in the commentary booth, he has been on social media saying, hey, folks, cool at Ohio State. We're doing great with these games. People love them. We're going to, just the way the ball bounces, if you will.
All right, now let's get to the Paley Center. I know that you've had an opportunity, Simon, to head on over there. International Council Summit wrapping up today. Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, as you mentioned, is there. Anything new learned from the conference?
2 big takeaways from Adam Silver. First of all, he thinks that when this new 11-year contract takes place next fall, that every national game will have a mega content service attached. Amazon with Prime Video, ABC with probably a mega content ESPN, NBC with Peacock. The interesting thing is, with the NBA Finals in June 2026, if ESPN does do a mega content service, will they run, for the very first time, a simulcast NBA Finals on ABC and a mega content ESPN that you get on smart TV sets and devices? Second thing is, when these contracts go into effect, you're going to see efforts at alternative telecasts. He goes at MegaCast on steroids, interactivity, and also the possibility of sports betting on the television set, gamification, and other things like that.
All right, thanks, Simon. Appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome. Take care.
We'll be back to wrap it up next.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the moment. That's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Fortunately, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Last Licks coming up. By the way, Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, making the announcement that Anthony Richardson will start for Joe Flacco. Also said that Flacco's performance the last couple of weeks when he started had no factor whatsoever in Richardson now starting again. I'm just telling you, I don't make up the quotes. They are what they are. Do they make sense? A lot of times, no, folks. We just give you the news on NewsWire. It's time now for Last Licks. Well, it's very apparent that the Tampa Bay Rays are looking for a new home in 2024 because of the hurricane that plowed through there. It tore the roof off. And 2025 is right around the corner, so they got to figure out a place to play. So that place probably will be somewhere in Clearwater or Dunedin, maybe Tampa, minor league park, basically. But 2026 is going to come really fast, and I guess the city of St. Petersburg has done their evaluation, and they have determined in 26, not 25, that they'll be able to return the Rays back to St. Petersburg. Their new stadium is not going to be built for several years. So the cost of that, folks, is going to be approximately $55 million to restore Tropicana Field. Here's the question. Who is going to pay for that? Is it the city? Is it the Rays? I'm just not really sure, because if they're going to have a new stadium, why would they dump $50 million into a stadium they're not even going to play in? There's actually a chance that Tropicana Field, let's call it what it is, may not exist in a few years as well. So I'm guessing that they'll get this figured out. I still don't know how they will, because that seems like a lot of money to pay for a stadium that will not be in use in 2 years. Stay tuned on the latest on Tropicana Field. Last night in the National Basketball Association, the Detroit Pistons took on the Miami Heat. And as we talked about earlier in the show, the biggest coaching blunder of the season was by Eric Spoelstra, the head coach of the Heat, who called a timeout and he didn't have one. That led to a technical foul. That led to a Pistons win. Guess who was in the house for that? Remember the old timeout? Remember the Michigan Wolverines when Chris Webber tried to call a timeout that he didn't have? It has now given us an image and a meme that we will never forget. Jalen Rose, who played on the Fab Five, he was there. He was in the house. And as you can see there, I think you can see it, he gave us a face where he was just stunned that the head coach, Eric Spoelstra, called a timeout that he didn't have one. He's been there. He's done that. Well, he didn't actually do it. It was Chris Webber. But yeah, what about that? How about the coincidence of having Rose in the house for one of the most memorable college basketball blunders of all time? Pretty cool there. We'll be seeing that face a lot. All right. Did you know that Travis Hunter, by the way, who plays for Colorado, who's one of the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy Award right now, I believe he's second on the FanDuel Sportsbook shortest odds. Did you know that he has a brother that plays for the University of Georgia, who is actually great? Am I right, Frank? His name is Travis Hunter with a Y. So it's the same name, just with a Y. Is that right? That's his brother? Okay. Travis Hunter, Trayvis, plays for the University of Georgia. Fantastic player, being recruited by every college in the country. I'm sure that Coach Prime wants him to play at Colorado, but that is not a done deal yet. He may end up going somewhere else. Who knows? Maybe Coach Prime leaves Colorado, goes somewhere else. But needless to say, there's a chance that you got two Heismans in the family, two brothers, both playing college football. Maybe there's a chance we could get two Heisman Trophy awards out of this family. Oh, he's minus money. Yeah. So but is he the favorite, Frank, to win the Heisman? Is he the favorite to win he's the favorite. Okay, he's the favorite. Travis is to win the Heisman Trophy Award. All right, so we'll keep on this high school player in the future. Okay, we've had a stacked show. Thanks so much for being part of it today. Also, thanks to Simon Applebaum for coming on the show. In addition, thanks to Pat Evans and Michael DeCourcy. Thanks to our director, Luke, and our producer, Frank, who I completely forgot about yesterday here on the show. Sorry, guys. Congrats. Appreciate it. Coming up next, we've got the early line. That's Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern, so stay tuned to that. Game time decisions, in-game live sports rage tonight. We've got an NFL game tomorrow between the Eagles and the Washington Commanders. I don't think that we've discussed that show a lot, so we'll do that tomorrow. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night here on SportsGrid. You can catch our next edition of NewsWire here on the show, 11 a.m. Eastern, exclusively on SportsGrid. And with that, enjoy the college basketball, NHL, NBA. Did I forget anything? Oh, some MAC action tonight in college football as well. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, for NewsWire. I said it.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the that's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Told me I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you goes here on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sports.